All right. So what type and size multifamily are you going to target, right? So there's properties are broken up by size and class, okay? Size of the properties and the class of the property. So let's get into it. Okay, so residential multifamily is 2 to 4 units, duplex, triplex, quadplex, 2 family, 3 family, 4 family if you're up in Northeast, okay? Same thing. And there are some real advantages to residential multifamily. First of all, there's less zeros. So it's less intimidating, you know, and mentally it's certainly easier mentally to start small, okay? And if you make a mistake, it's a smaller mistake. The big advantage is residential lending, especially if you're going to move in. You can get 30-year fixed financing, very low down payments. But you got to move in to get that, okay? So low down payments, lower interest rates, and again, long-term fully amortized financing. So there's some real advantages. You know, if you want a house hack and buy a fourplex, live in 1 unit, rent out the other 3, it's a fantastic way to get started. If the missus or if the husband are willing to do that, I can't think of a better way to get started, okay? All right, but there's no scale there. Now here's the challenges of 2 to 4 unit residential. It can be more competitive. You can only do 10 loans with Fannie Mae, okay, which is one of the resources for these deals. It's harder to get economies of scale. Is it easier to buy 10 fourplexes or just go buy a 40 unit? Trust me, it's easier to buy a 40 unit. In fact, it's easier to buy a 40 unit in many cases than it is to buy a fourplex. Okay, I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Okay, and you can't ramp the value. Now, definitely also more management intensive. You're not going to find great property management companies that manage the small residential. You'll find good ones in the big sophisticated management companies that have training programs and they're sophisticated and all that to do multifamily, but to do larger multifamily. But the small stuff, it's hard to find good property management companies. You can find them, but a lot of times it's just like a real estate broker doing it on the side or something like that. Okay, but now let's talk about the belle of the ball. This is what I hope you will go after, okay? And that's commercial multifamily, which is 5 units or higher, okay? Now, I want you to put multifamily on this slide, Matt, okay, rather than commercial properties, commercial multifamily. So 5 units or higher. Why? Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, one of the disadvantages here, and actually I need that on this slide as well, Matt, is that your value, you can't ramp the value because your value is based on comparable sales. You can't dictate what someone else's property sells for around you, so you're never going to get more value than what the comps have sold for, comparable properties, okay? With commercial multifamily, it's based on a multiple of the NOI, the net operating income. Okay, so what is the NOI? It's all the income from all sources, including pet fees and all that stuff, less property-related expenses, not debt, and the bottom line is the NOI, the net operating income, and that's the most important number in this business because any increase to that number is an exponential increase to the value, like the examples I just gave you, okay? So that's why we like commercial multifamily, because you can dictate and force appreciation from your efforts, okay? Again, value add, that's what we do, we create value. Value is based on a multiple of the net income. You can get economies of scale. You can get large enough assets so you can outsource dealing with toilets and tenants. Okay, you hire a property management company. And if it's large enough, you have on-site staff. You're not dealing with that crap, okay? I mean, not to say it's not a great place to learn. If you buy a fourplex or you buy a 10 unit or even something small like that, do it yourself, you'll learn a ton. But if you want to ramp quicker, go larger. Let's talk about building your team, okay? Now, there's your inside team, your direct partners, and there's your outside team. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. Outside team would be your property manager, okay? You want to make sure you select a property management company that manages the size and class of properties that you're targeting, okay? You don't want to, if you get a company that's used to managing A-class properties and you give them a C-class property, they're going to crash and burn, okay? I had this happen with an asset in Shreveport, okay? They killed this place. I'll give you what happened here. It was 403 units, okay? And it took me 8 months to get them the hell out of there. They did a horrible job. The pools were green. There were 3 pools. They were green. There was busted windows, people getting shot. I mean, it was terrible. When I took it over, the income was less than $100,000 a month, okay, on 403 units, okay? I had to live there, okay, and it was not fun. And I got the income up to $300,000, thank God, a month, and we were able to sell it, thank God, because you know what? That property is completely empty now. The people that bought it lost it. So anyway, You can't, and it's because the partner that we brought in that brought us that deal had his own management company. He didn't have a clue how to manage a C asset. And so finally I got his ass out of there and I had to step in and live there, which I really hated. But now here's the other thing. You want to make sure they have an office or a regional manager in that area. And that's what these larger management companies do. They'll have a regional manager hire and manage the on-site staff that are at your property, at your asset, okay? But you want to make sure that regional manager lives near that property. Otherwise, you know, they're never there and they need to be there, right? Or that the management company, the property management company has an office in that geographic area. And it's okay if they don't, as long as the regional is nearby, well located. You want to make sure they've embraced technology, okay? I'm going to tell you, you know, I will tell you, I used to say that most people do 50% of their analysis on their phone. It's pretty much 100% now. So, you know, if you go to their website when you're evaluating a property management company and you can't do a virtual tour of the property, you can't apply online, you can't put in a maintenance work order, you know, they're a digital dinosaur, don't do business with them. And sometimes, by the way, tell me in the chat how you think you're going to find the best people, these vendors that you're going to deal with. Tell me in the chat how you think you're going to find the best people. Nobody put Google. Good, good. It's referrals. That's right. Great job, guys. You got it. It's through referrals. That's how you find the best. Now, you may have a property management company referred to you multiple times, but if they're a digital dinosaur, do not do business with them. They will, you know, they haven't they haven't embraced technology. And I will tell you, I mean, we are massively researching AI right now, and any property management company that's not doing the same is going to fall way behind. Okay, so AI is where everything's going. Okay. All right, you're going to deal with commercial real estate brokers. By the way, just so I tell you something, in your resources tonight is a book that I wrote on how to hire a third-party property management company. I will tell you, it's probably one of the best resources in existence about this topic. And I give it away for free to you guys. It's going to be in your resource folder tonight. So you want to make sure that you look at that later. And it's got all the questions you could possibly ask and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, you want, oh, I'm still on property manager. Did I? Yeah, manage the same types and size of properties. By the way, if you give a property management company is used to managing larger properties, a small one, they will crash and burn. If they're used to managing small ones and you give them a large one, they'll crash and burn. Okay? Again, if they don't manage the same class of property, they will crash and burn. Okay? Super important. I guess I did already go through that. Hold up. Okay. Brokers, commercial real estate brokers. So you want brokers that work full time. I will tell you, up to about a year ago, it was hard to get a broker on the phone. Now they're driving you crazy because their sales are down about 90%, guys. And this is why the opportunity is incredible right now, okay? Because properties aren't selling. It's difficult for these operators that got this adjustable rate debt to actually refinance because the rates are so high right now. And so this is why there's a lot of distressed stuff coming online right now. But anyway, so brokers will now give you the time of day. They didn't before. They were the belle of the ball. They're no longer the belle of the ball. Okay, so you want brokers that specialize in the size and type apartments that you're targeting. And sometimes if you're a newbie, talk to the young ones, okay? But I'll tell you something else, okay? Even talk to brokers in a market that you're not that interested in, just to learn to be comfortable with talking to brokers, okay? And here's the thing. These brokers can make you very wealthy, so develop deep relationships, okay? Don't be a once and done thing. Treat them with respect, talk to them regularly, and ideally, here's the thing, and I tell my warriors this, you know, if you're investing out of state, because you're going to find you can invest out of state, no problem there at all. But so you'll start these relationships with property management companies and brokers over the phone. But ultimately, you got to go visit there and you got to make appointments with all these people and make sure you're morning, noon, and night. You've got your appointments lined up while you're there. When you do that, they see you're real, everything changes, but they need to meet you and shake your hand. And you know, go visit some properties with them, whatever. But you can start on the phone, but you've got to go visit there ultimately. Okay, super important. You're going to need a good real estate attorney. Merrill is fantastic. You're going to meet him tomorrow. I mean, he's a freaking rock star. And you're going to want an attorney that specializes in real estate contracts. And by the way, super important, I have written thousands and thousands of contracts. I used to own a litigation support company. You know, I know how to write clauses in contracts. I've hired probably 40 attorneys, okay? I still always have my contracts reviewed, okay? Do not ever not have your contract reviewed, ever, or have it written by an attorney. Super important, okay? Okay. You look in the mirror and think about how things are going for yourself. Are you thriving or just surviving? Now, if you haven't heard, I've got this amazing mentorship program. My students are called my warriors, and at last count, they own somewhere between 190 and 200,000 units that we know of. It's an extraordinary group of people that are just flat out crushing it in multifamily. And here's why that's a big deal. We could be facing the greatest transfer of wealth we see in our lifetimes with the current economic environment we're in. Incredible opportunity is already here. If you'd like to apply to our amazing warrior program, text the word CRUSH to 72345 and we'll set up a call. You can look us over, we'll look you over, and I can promise you, even if you don't join the program and it's not a fit, you're going to leave that call better than when you got on it. So again, text the word CRUSH to 72345 and you and I will speak soon. All right, let's get back to it. You're also going to need an SEC attorney, okay? So ideally, you want an attorney that can do both contracts reviewed and help you with syndications if you're going to do SEC. Merrill is one of those. I highly recommend him, but you know, there are others out there, obviously, but you want one that'll do both. Super important. Okay. You're going to deal with commercial lenders, okay? There are lots of different types of loans for these properties. You know, there's Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is called conforming debt. It's non-recourse debt, meaning if they foreclose, they can't come after you. They just take the property. And there's bank debt, there's credit unions, there's life insurance. There's I'm drawing a blank right now. Loans that get sold on the secondary market. I'm drawing a blank on the name. He'll tell you tomorrow. Anyway, there's just tons of different types of loans. Now, you do not have to become an expert at this, but you need someone like Tyler tomorrow when you find a deal to tell you what direction to go with it. That's what you want. You don't want to go directly to lenders if you're brand new, okay? You want to work with a loan broker like a Tyler because he can take a look at what you have, take a look at what you bring to the table and point you in the right direction. Super important. And he can be a buffer between you and the lender, which is also very important so you don't screw up. Okay. Okay, you're going to need an accountant that understands cost segregation and bonus depreciation. This is one of the things that we love about this business. We have what's called cost segregation. So with real estate, you can depreciate a real estate asset, okay? Meaning, and you can write off over a 20-year period everything above the ground because it deteriorates, right? Well, with cost segregation, you can actually accelerate that depreciation because what you do is you have an engineer go and they give you the remaining life on the walls, the ceilings, the roof, the carpet, everything, and it accelerates your depreciation. You can have incredible first-year write-offs with cost segregation. We also still have bonus depreciation. I think it's 60% now, so you can even accelerate it more. But you want an accountant that understands that. They can also help you with projections unless you have someone super analytical. Now, you guys have access to our Deal Evaluator software. It's incredible. It's free. I gave it to you, okay? And that will also help you with these projections, okay? You need an insurance broker that can write insurance, ideally anywhere in the United States. And you definitely always have your property inspected, okay? I have inspected thousands and thousands of properties, okay? I could probably pass my general contractor's license. I know enough about it at this point, but I would never buy a property without having it inspected. I'll give you an example. That 296 unit in San Antonio, I brought a general contractor there just to get a second set of eyes. He saw something that I didn't see. You had to stand just right and look at this building to see that the brick wall was bulging at the top. You didn't see it unless you just looked at it in the right spot. We immediately stopped the due diligence. We told the seller, hey, this is something neither one of us knew about, but we got to pay for it. We got engineers' reports. In these old properties, this was an 80s built property, you're going to have settlement. Doesn't mean you don't buy the place, but you got to take care of it. We had to tear down the brick wall, put it up. We got a big discount on that property because I brought a general contractor or a property inspector. So you always do that. Okay, guys? Super important. Now, let's talk about the advantages of creating a partnership in multifamily. There's a lot of advantages, okay? Again, this business is a team sport. You're not going to do it all if you're going to buy larger multifamily. It's not going to happen, okay? And you divide up the responsibilities. There's strength in numbers. It helps with the financing. The best partnerships I see are an analytical person with an outgoing person. That's a success formula. And that's why you want to get around people that are doing this. That's why my Warrior program is so extraordinary, because people get together. Most of those, like I said, those 200, what I think is 250,000 units are done between Warriors, okay? So you want to put all the pieces of the team in place. Someone that's analytical to do the underwriting. Someone that's outgoing to go out there and build relationships with brokers and investors and so on and so forth. You're also going to want someone that's got some construction experience or management experience to step in and help with the asset management. So there's a lot of pieces here that you can fill in and help. Okay? All right. So here's the thing though. A partnership is like a marriage, okay? Easy to get into and hard to get out of, okay? Ask me how I know. I say this all the time. In fact, one of my students who's on one of the panels got me a t-shirt that says hashtag ask me how I know, because I'm like, don't do that, ask me how I know, because I made every mistake in the book. I never had any formal training for this. And so you want to be very careful when you start a partnership. By the way, tonight, you will also have this book in your resources, Questions to Ask When Forming a Partnership, okay? Because you can get caught up, and this will be in your resources tonight. It's got the questions. You got to ask hard questions up front. You get caught up in the emotion of this and the excitement of this, you're going to make a mistake, okay? So ask these questions, okay? I do every time I bring in a partner. I go through this list. Things like, how do we provide for the unexpected? Let's see. Who's responsible for what percent and kind of company debt? What's each partner going to contribute as far as cash, skills, so on and so forth? Do we have a desired time frame for our exit? How are we going to divide profits? What are our values going to be? What are you looking for in a partner? I mean, use this, okay, guys? Don't just jump into a partnership. Super important. Okay, now, this is a big one. Oh, they're up here too. What happens if things don't work out? Exit plans. Who's responsible for what? How are decisions going to be handled? What if we disagree on something? What happens? You want to explore their past work ethic. Again, have those difficult conversations up front. And you want complementary skill sets. You don't need two bulls in the china cabinet, right? Ideally, you got the yin and yang. Those are the best, okay? Now, can you have two drivers? Yes, but you've got to decide who's doing what and who's responsible for what, okay? Because again, it's like a marriage. It really is. This is why when you do your first deal, and I tell my warriors this, you do your first deal, date before you get married. Don't say we're going to do this forever. Say, let's do one or two deals and see how it goes. I'm now, by the way, I'm also getting into senior housing, assisted living, something I've wanted to do for years. I'm getting into that. So I've been having calls with some of my warriors that are killing it in that already. And I'm going to have these questions because actually pretty much every deal I've ever done has been with warriors, and I'm getting into that business. By the way, in our warrior program, it's not just multifamily, it's assisted living, it's self-storage, it's mobile home parks, it's office warehouse. I mean, it's all there. But and so you got to decide if it's going to be multifamily. You're definitely in the right place. I'm going to start teaching senior housing at some point too. I just, as an aside, I don't know, went down that rabbit hole. Okay. But here's the biggest one, guys. Trust your freaking gut, okay? When you meet somebody, if it doesn't feel right, trust it, okay? Your brain is incredibly powerful. It'll pick up on micro nuances that you're not even consciously aware of, okay? And, a great example, there's a book about this called Blink. I think it's Pressman is the author. And an art expert can look at a painting and they know it's a fraud, but they don't know why it's a fraud, okay? Because of all their experience. It's the same thing with people. If something doesn't smell right, trust it, okay? Like, typically before I hire a C-level employee, like a COO, CFO, things like that, I will take them to dinner, try to have them to have a couple of drinks. And I'll give you an example of this. I was hiring a COO once, and Tiffy, my ex, and I went to dinner with him, and there was just something about him that bothered me. It was a tiny little thing. So I looked at his resume, and he said that there was a person that had cancer, so I may not want to call him on his resume. Well, of course I called him. He didn't have cancer. This guy had stolen from him. So trust your freaking gut. Now, women are better at this than men. Sorry, guys, they have better intuition, but guys, you can hone it too. You just can't ignore it. That's the key piece. If something doesn't feel right, trust it. I can't stress that enough. Okay, now, here are a couple of the ways you can buy deals. You can do a joint venture or you can do a syndication. And this is where you're bringing in other people's money. Now, here's the key differences. With a joint venture, everybody has to be active, okay? You cannot just, if you take money from someone and they're not doing anything, you've got to syndicate, okay? Don't play with this. But even a syndication is no big deal. I mean, you stroke a check to somebody like Merrill and you just dot the I's and cross the T's. Not the end of the world. Once you do one, you'll be like, okay, is that all there was? Not a big deal. And there's some great software to help you do it. But like an example of joint venture, when I was in my 20s, I got millions of dollars worth of property, 50-50 with partners. I found them, I fixed them, they put all the money up, and they also signed on the debt. They signed on the debt, they're definitely active, right? But there was another thing, like if I spent more than a certain amount of money, I had to get their approval. Okay, so that made it a joint venture, okay? But again, if you just take money from someone and give them a return, it's a security, and Merrill will try to scare you tomorrow. I try to get him to tone it down, but that's his job, is to scare you so you don't try to do something you shouldn't do. Okay, so in these deals, you will raise equity. By the way, what is equity? Equity is what you're putting into the property as like a down payment, okay? In our world, it's called equity. I know in the single family world, if you got a house that's worth $100,000 and you owe 50, it's got $50,000 worth of equity, right? In our world, it's kind of the same thing, but we don't use down payment. We use the term equity because equity includes the down payment, it includes any upfront money, it includes your closing costs, it includes, CapEx, which is capital expenditures, what you're going to do to fix up the property. Also includes, I want to add operational reserves to this slide, please. It includes reserves because you want to raise money in case you know what hits the fan, okay? But that's all equity, okay? That's the money you're raising or bringing into the deal, okay? And so equity investors will get a piece of the equity in the deal, and they'll get their proportionate share of cash flow and profits and depreciation, okay? And the split between you and those partners is determined by the quality of the deal, the caliber of the deal. Typically, it can be anywhere from 50-50 to 70-30 is the most common, okay, split, where the equity investors get 50% or 70%, as it were, depending on the quality of the deal. Or really not the quality, just the numbers on the deal. The deal can be quality, but to make the returns work, sometimes you give a higher percentage. And most of the time, they will stay in the deal even if you refinance, which makes it very attractive. They'll get their money back, but they're still getting, cash flow, infinite cash flow. Now, you can do it differently, but that's the most common methodology, certainly when you're getting started. So how do you find equity? Certainly friends and family, but guys, do not bring in friends and family if you're going to dabble in this, okay? Make sure you really study this and learn it, because I will tell you, it can be some awkward Thanksgivings if you crash and burn because you dabbled, okay? You can use credit cards. Hell, I put houses on credit cards when I was 18. By the way, give you some perspective. When I started in this business, 1978, everybody's complaining about 7% interest right now. In fact, some of the commercial stuff's at like 9 or 10%. That's why people are dying. These guys bought these apartment complexes, 3% adjustable rate. Now they're 10%. They're getting killed. But when I started in this business, interest rates were 18%, okay? And so we were freaking doing backflips when they hit 7%. But so you can use credit cards. If the numbers, it's all about the numbers. If the numbers make sense, use credit, and it's all about cash flow, by the way. I don't know how many of you actually got my book. I give it away for free. I've given away, I don't know, probably over 100,000 copies, maybe more than that. The reason I bring this, and it was a bestseller in 3 categories. I've never had a single critical word about this book, ever. Nobody's even, usually you get the haters, not a single hater about this book. But the reason I'm pulling it up here is the title is How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow from Multifamily Properties. Again, I give it away for free. Now you pay the shipping, it's like $6-7, you get it. But the subtitle is The New Rules of Real Estate Investing. The new rules are, it's all about cash flow. Don't hit me up and say, hey, I can buy this property for $1 million that sold for $3 million 5 years ago. I could care less. What's the cash flow, okay? So again, this business is numbers. It's empirical, okay? So it doesn't matter what you're paying interest as long as the numbers make sense. Hopefully that makes sense to you. You can use a line of credit. You can use self-directed IRAs. We raise a lot of money from people's self-directed IRAs. Of course, you get private money from investors. You can also do hard money. if you guys know what that is from the single family space, it's just private lenders putting money in. I borrowed millions from an old woman back in Denver a lifetime ago. Private investor. A debt investor. Now, I told you about equity investor where they stay in the deal and they get a piece of the profits and depreciation. A debt investor just wants a return. I'm going to tell you, if you can get debt investors, they're the best. Why? Because once you pay them back, they're out of the deal. I've got a woman, I don't know if I talk about her later, but her name's Maureen, and she just paid cash, I think $8 million for a house in Utah. All she did after she became successful was debt investors. And so when she sold these places and bought people out, she made a fortune. But you've got to have a track record typically to get investors like this. But once you refinance or sell, or refinance, they're out. It's fantastic. Okay. So how do you find investors partners, right? Listen, if they hold still long enough, they better know what it is you do. That's what I tell my warriors. By God, anyone you meet, you want to get the question, what do you do? Okay? I'm glad you asked. But anywhere people gather, church, soccer field, health club. I did millions of dollars worth of deals with a guy. We had lockers next to each other in the health club. It was one of these fancy health clubs, and we had our little brass names on the locker to make us feel good. And I did millions. I met him there. Meetup groups, okay? My warriors, I bet you they have 50 meetup groups around the country. Or you can create your own. Just start talking about this business. You want to get around people that are doing this. Super important, okay? Real estate investor club meetings. That's the same as meetup anymore. They used to call them RIA meetings. Networking events. You can do presentations to groups, but again, you want to become a great asker of questions. Why? If you haven't read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie's book, get that book. People love a conversation. If you're asking the questions, they're doing all the talking. They think it's the greatest conversation ever, okay? So that's a good book for you to read, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.